Welcome to What in the World, a project initiated by Hungry for Life International. Today's podcast is titled A Kenya Update, where we sit down with our international partner Silas Odur and talk about the projects HFL is involved with him in Kenya. So grab your headphones, sit back, relax, and listen to Silas' stories all about how he founded these projects and what's happening today.
Well, hello and welcome back to another Monday episode of What in the World, our Hungry for Life podcast, where we talk about all things international. And today we are lucky enough to have one of our field partners from Kenya here in person in our office. And so I would like to welcome Silas to the office. Welcome here, Silas.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for making this commute all the way from Kenya just for the podcast.
Oh, we thank you for making it possible for me to be here.
I'm kidding. Silas has been spending some time in Canada for, how long have you been here for?
I arrived here on 15th in Montreal, and so I've been in Canada from 15th of September.
Oh, from September. Okay. Oh, well, that's a decent amount of time here.
Yeah.
And we were just talking ahead of time, and apparently you only really drink coffee when you come to Canada. So have you had your coffee fix today, this morning?
I have had my tea fix.
Your tea fix. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll have to just fumble our way through this podcast then if it's just tea. Just kidding. Anyways, yeah. So Silas has been one of our field partners in Kenya since 2014.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about, we'll get into depth of what is all happening under your umbrella in a little bit, but just briefly, what is happening in Seje and Yogo? And that is where that is the location in Kenya where, yeah.
Yes. We serve in 2 communities currently in projects. But with church, we do in 13 different communities. So with Seje, we are having school program, which is a complete primary school run under the government of Kenya curriculum. We have water projects in Seje, which provides clean, safe water for the community. We also do community agriculture, of which we do cereal farming, that is corn and beans and millet. And we also, just in the recent past, have initiated IGS, that is the income generating activities for the project, in the area of poultry farming and hog farming, which we call piggery. Yes. And in Yogo, we undertake as well school. So we have a complete primary school that's, as I said, run under the curriculum set by the government. We have agriculture, community farming. We have community safe water provision. And we also do relief programs as is and when funds are or resources allow. Just like in the recent past, we gave food to over 500 families for 2 consecutive months. That was the month of July and the month of August. And everything we do has a foundation in Christ. Everything we do must have, the anchor of it all must be God. And we do church planting, discipleship, and leadership training for our pastors. So we do a lot of conferences and seminars, apart from now 2 years that COVID has almost brought everything to a halt. But we thank God that things are beginning to work again, and we are getting into a new normal. So, yeah.
Why don't you tell our audience how COVID has affected Kenya and your schools and your programs?
Well, I would say COVID was has been a massive pandemic across the globe. And so equally Kenya is seriously affected. Since March 13th, 2020, the whole system basically crunched down. Everything was closed. You could not move. We have had a lot of what they call, the time has gone, but I will remember. But they basically closed movement.
Okay.
Yeah. So like in Kenya, when they closed the country, there was total no movement from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Oh, really?
You could not move anywhere.
You stay hunkered down in your
in your
home.
This became so hard because a lot of people in Kenya are still at the state where you eat what you've worked for that day. And so if you were not able to work, then of course a lot of children were going hungry, a lot of the elderly, and even men. Actually, one of the main concerns now for me as a leader working in these communities is the rate at which suicide has increased. And this is because of hopelessness. And for people who you thought were doing well, who were business people, all of a sudden their properties are being auctioned by auctioneers. And, the state of hopelessness has really gone up. Coupled with the drought that affected everybody, because the low class people, their main income is subsistence farming. People basically depend on tilling their 1 acre or a half an acre, and whatever comes out of it is what they are going to live on, as they also fend through other ways. And so when drought also came in and affected productivity, the hopelessness was just way too much. We've had the phase 3 of the COVID was a quite traumatic. The Delta virus was quite traumatic. Quite a number of people have died. And so we are doing what we can and hoping that by prayer and everybody taking responsibility, we will be able to come through this.
Yeah, and we've been hearing that from a few of our different field partners from other countries, that it's become a hunger virus. And we did a whole podcast, actually I think it was our very first podcast we did on the hunger virus, and that was just how COVID has just affected everybody. Like exactly what you're saying, people haven't been allowed to leave, they haven't been allowed to work, and causing them to go hungry and die of hunger, not COVID. So
yes, it's been serious, and actually really coming out now that the government is opening the country. People can now move, people can now go to work. But on the other flip, the inflation cost has gone way up. And so it's almost you're jumping from hardship to hardship to hardship, and
right.
it's a bit of a challenge.
Inflation, the drought, everything.
Yes, and especially for us who are managing institutions where you are feeding almost 600 people daily. You find your costs are so astronomically high that you just don't know what to do. And but the secret is not giving up.
The secret. If you have that willpower. Can you explain a bit about how the school operates? Like you said, you have 600 kids. Is that
plus the staff? We have in Seje we have 307. In Yogo we have 180.
Okay. Staff.
Pupils.
Oh, okay.
So we, in total, between the two communities, you find we have around 487 this year. Okay. Last year, 2019, we had 537. Okay. And how our schools work, because our major drive was to be able to work with these communities that were so devastated with poverty, and to find ways of bringing them up. We started a program where we would take children that are categorized in 3 major groups. That is the economically orphaned, the total orphans, and partial orphans. So
sorry, say that again. There's 3 categories of students. There's the economically
orphaned.
Orphaned.
Those are pupils that have both parents, but the parents are just not able to intervene economically or financially into their lives.
Okay, so
Then
economically orphaned.
Yes.
And the second category
is the partial orphan. They've lost the main bread winner in the family.
partial orphaned.
So they will be single parented at that time because the other one has died. And then we have the total orphan. That
The
was
total
our
orphan, okay.
major focus. And then we also looked at the vulnerable children, children who could be sick or devastated by either. Like I have a girl that we've adopted who had both parents and grandparents, but was just undergoing a lot of abuse. So we took this girl in. So those children we work with, and that is kind of our focal point. But for the sustainability of the school, because as the program grows and gets bigger, you realize the cost of that increases. If you, like when we were starting, we started with 30 pupils, which we were spending like $1,500 a month.
Okay.
And now we have over 400. That cost has gone up.
Yeah.
And looking at that, one thing we did was to raise the standard of education, because in our perspective, education is the equalizer of humanity. If you are well educated, you can fit in any society and work anywhere in the world. If you are not, then you are close to your small village and life becomes miserable there, and you cannot prop yourself up. So our focus was that if these children are properly propped up, then they will be able to be a source of hope for their family, and we will be able to see that generational transition in life from a state of hopelessness, hopefully, to a state of sustainability, and even more, that they will be able to also. We have a dream that soon we will be coming back to invest in the land that invested in us. So,
nice.
So yeah.
I like that dream.
Yeah.
So when I was there in 2014
Yeah.
with a group of ladies, first of all, I just remember the school gave us the warmest welcome ever,
Yes.
and it was very endearing and so special. And then we toured around a little bit, and you showed us the garden. And what I liked, what stood out to me was how, I guess it would be for the economically orphaned category. Tell me if this is still happening. The parents spend some time working in the fields. Is that still?
Yes, when we take you, as I said, we have two groups. The ones that we are in the program, but for sustainability, we admit those who are able to pay.
Yes. Okay.
So those who are able to pay,
Yeah.
they would pay the fee, and then their children are in school. But the economically, the ones in the program, the children we take in the program that we are fully in charge of, their guardian or parents gives 1 day in a week.
Okay.
And they work in the farm from 7 to around 10 or 11 a.m., depending on how fast one is working, because they are apportioned where to work every day.
Okay.
And the produce from the farm goes into the feeding program of the children.
Right.
And the excess is sold to buffer the costs and mitigate those costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like their tuition payment.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is like in kind. And this
I like that.
we looked at this because if somebody is just sponsoring a child and donating and giving, this parent, it creates reliability on donor funding. And there is never guarantee, because having lived here and lived in Africa, I know life happens to everybody. Somebody who is very good-willed person who wants to support the whole world might be in capacity to do that this year. And when months turn over, then situation has changed for them. And so we had to look at how do we then become sustainable? How do we... and so when they are working, one, it helps us build our sustainability. Number two, it helps the parent be proud and co-own the projects. The co-ownership of the community and into the project is very important. Number three is the internal pride of I contributed into the life of my child. These children could be babies today, but 20, 30 years, they will be doctors, they will be professionals. And so how individuals process information are different. Somebody might turn and say, you never contributed into my life. And how painful is it for a child to look at the face of a mother and say, you never contributed into my life. But when they see their parents working, their parents get the pride, and they also have a relationship that everything I am is because of the sacrifice of my parent or my guardian, as much as it might not be economically equivalent to what it took for them to go to school. Yeah.
But it's a step, right?
It's a huge step. It's a huge step. Yeah.
And I feel like you're killing a lot of birds with that one stone of, you're allowing the parents to have buy-in and pride for their child's life, and it in turn creates a confident child. You're feeding these kids, you're educating these kids. I like this program.
Thank you. Because we have to look into the future, because we are building a future.
So talk to me about that for a second. How hard is it to plan for the future when it's so hard to get, like you said, the parents, they can give up a day a week to come, but it's very, like you said, they work for their meals today. So how hard is it for you to be able to plan long term when that's not necessarily the mentality around you?
As a pioneer, sometimes, and I've realized the difficulty and the pain pioneers go through, because as a pioneer, it is like you're the only one who sees the destiny. Everybody else lives in the hopelessness of yesterday. But once that light is clear, they come on board. And I remember when we were initially starting, people were asking, how is it going to work? You know, we were starting, like in Seje, we started under a building that was partly collapsing. It was a building that was grass-thatched, partly collapsing. And people were like, you are taking us for a ride. But when they saw the consistency and the energy in, and then they saw the first classroom coming up, then they said, it is working. And it is in that consistency and living your word, you know. When you say you are going to feed children, you are feeding them. The difficulty on our side is that this is a faith walk. You know, like now we are talking about a secondary school that just constructing it alone will take almost $1 million, and you don't have a shilling, but you still have faith. And faith walk is so hard because for us, we plan, and yes, we know for a whole year to go through, we need roughly around $150 equivalent of Kenya shillings to be able to run a whole year of schooling for these 500 children.
Okay.
But you start from, in business world, you would need to put 150,000 in the bank before you start. While for us, we know we need 150. We start before the money, and then the money comes later.
A walk of faith.
A walk of faith. Yeah. It is very different from you have to believe that yes, it will. Yeah.
So, where does the money come from?
Where is the money coming from? Well,
you said some pay their own tuition, so there's that one income stream.
Yes.
And obviously, we have groups here who support different projects along the way.
Yes.
Is it hard to canvass for the funds?
It is very hard.
I know I do some fundraising here.
It is
hard.
very hard, but yes. So our finances come from those who are paying fee, and we have a group that is helping us with sponsorship of children, and then we have well-wishers who have huge hearts, and they impact into lives that are not blood related to them, thousands of miles away, and yet they still believe in the hope of somebody rising up. And I always say, I am a product of somebody with a big heart impacting into my life, because my parents were not able to pay for my fee, and I am whom I am because of those people with big hearts. And so that's why it is easy for me to live my life for others, because I believe today I can work anywhere in the world. I can, if I were to get back into work, I can work anywhere in the world because I have the requisite qualifications. But if for those 500 children, they need somebody to also stand up for them so that they be somebody. And when one person is helped, God can use just one to change the whole community, the whole nation, and that's what we believe.
And you're a good example of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. How did this all get started? How did I didn't even say the name of it. It's Christ Glory Academy.
Christ Glory Center Ministry, which runs Christ Glory, Yogo Glory Center Academy, Seje Glory Center Academy. Yes.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that before. So how did it even come to be? Was this your vision, or did you have others along the way, or how did it start?
Well, as I said, I was partly sponsored, and growing up, at some point in the university level, God began to speak to me about going back to support others. And so when I moved to Canada and started working, that became so clear and so much a push in my heart to do what God wanted me to do. And it took years of, everybody would want to come and have comfortable life here. And it took time to pray and consult and ask. And then it became almost impossible to not do it. And we made a step of faith with my wife, Kimberly, and sat down and said, let's go ahead and do it. And so we started in 2008, just sending a little bit of money that we had for these 30 children to have a nursery school. And then 2010, the first batch were going out of nursery, and we didn't know where to go. So that first batch went back into the public system, which wasn't providing very quality education. Okay. And along the ways, many other partners had come, like Roland and Teresa Poirier, Sue Doan, Ken and Yeta. A lot of people had come between 2008 and 2010. Okay. And we said, let's build this school one class at a time. And then the Church of Community Bible Church, Streetsville, came on board and said, we want to replicate this in another community. And that's how Seje started. Okay. And then God has just miraculously and divinely connected us with people. 2013, we were connected with Hungry for Life, and since then, and Hungry for Life has been a great ambassador and a bridge that has connected us to so many others. I really would say how God has interwoven this is his own story, because a lot of connections has been divine. Yeah.
I like how you keep bringing it back to that. It all starts and ends with God.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what are the biggest obstacles you face with running this school?
As I said, we run this by faith. And by faith sometimes can be very challenging. You know what you need to move to the next step, but you wait on God. I was just thinking about that this morning, that waiting on God sometimes can be tumultuous, but the good thing is that ultimately he comes through. So the biggest obstacle or the biggest challenge is resources. Yeah. When you don't have resources, as much as you know what should be done, could be done, it becomes a major obstacle. The other obstacle is not knowing what tomorrow holds. Like, who knew COVID would be there?
Right.
Yeah. And again, the third one is what would I say? The pain of sometimes working with the locals, because they don't see it sometimes. Sometimes, as I said, you are the one who is focusing and seeing, and sometimes making people see what they don't see is a huge obstacle by itself. But it's been a great journey. Yeah, it's been a great journey of adventure.
And how are teams received when teams come? Like we've said, Hungry for Life has sent some groups, and I'm sure you've hosted others. Like, there's a bit of a stigma around teams coming from here, going over there. Is it helpful? Is it beneficial? Is it useless? What's your take on it?
We would love to encourage more teams to come.
Really? How
Seriously, because you see, Africa perceives West in the prism of satisfaction and as in the highest dream of an African child is to be what the West is. When the West comes to the African child, it makes it live. It allows them to dream and to hope and to be able to see. Remember, in the transformation of humanity, the greatest of it all is to allow them to see that which is not with them, that it is possible. And so when teams come, that becomes real in the world of a child. And who is it that becomes whoever they want to, unless they dream it? You have to see it and dream it and hope for it and work towards it. So when teams come, a child sees somebody who has been in a plane, and then they say, so I can be in a plane too. And teams that come have different skills, different professions, and they speak to these children. I am a builder, I am a scientist, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a welder, I am a technician. And the child realizes that, so it is possible I can be this in this profession. And it is almost like when I'm in this profession, then I can be whomever I want to be. Yeah, so it is very important. And the other aspect of it is that it is one thing to send money, and it is almost like you are throwing your money somewhere. But when you come and see the actual impact your dollar has made on the lives of people, I believe that the exchange is symbiotic. It's a mutual relationship whereby you are able to also say, seriously, I am impacting the world.
Right.
And on the other side, it is possible. Yeah.
That's a really good perspective to share with our audience today, because I know there's a lot of back and forth about this exact topic. Like, why go? It's better off just sending the money. That's a constant argument for both sides, right? And so to hear it from you, to say it's worth it, it's good to know, because we don't always, like, we tell our teams, yeah, of course, it's worth it. You can go see what your money does. But to hear it from you, it's more credibility. So
it is much, much worth it. I would encourage everybody who has ever put their dollars to touch a life, your life will be touched in a very divine way when you touch the ground, and when you feel the hand, and when you see the face. I believe for people who have come, whether to Kenya or Nigeria or wherever you've gone for a mission, I believe the impact will never leave you. And you know, the things that touch our heart, sometimes it is us who feel it. We might not be able to tell it adequately to others. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I've personally experienced that too. That's why I work here, is because of a missions trip. So, it definitely has huge impact.
Yes.
How about you personally? How can Hungry for Life, or whoever's listening, how can they support you, and how can we pray for you as you continue on?
Well, there are so many ways. Number one that is most important is, of course, to pray for us on the field, because on the field we are faced with this day to day. You wake up, I tell people, I wake up in my house, and without appointment, there's 7-8 people there, and all of them have needs they want you to sort.
Right.
So praying for us that we don't burn out in the field, that we can still see God in and through these circumstances. Number two, I'm only able to do what I am doing because of the support, the financial support that comes from people. Because remember, I don't work, I don't earn salary. I live on the lives of those who believe in what God has called me to. And So anybody who wants to support financially my livelihood in Kenya would be welcome. And pray with us for the children. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and if people are wanting to know how to do that, on our website we have a donate page where you can designate it specifically to these projects. And if I remember to link it, I always say I'm going to link it. I'm going to try and link it so that people know where to go with that. Well, I think that's kind of all I had as far as questions go. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Is there any cool stories that you wanted to share, or is that all? I think that's all.
There's really so much. There's really so much
Yeah.
to share, but we just want to thank you and to bring our gratitude to our listeners, because together we are doing great things. Without you, we would not be able to do what we are doing on the ground. And so we are a divinely partnered team for great exploits to the glory of God.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And vice versa. Hungry for Life couldn't do anything without you as well. So thanks
you.
for all the work you do.
Thank you.
And thanks again for sitting down with us and chatting.
Oh,
it's always
my pleasure.
super fun to sit down with field partners. We hear a lot about our field partners, and very rarely do we get to sit down with them. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Well, that's all for today.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a global impact and eradicating needless suffering. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Tune in every other week for another conversation about what is happening at Hungry for Life.